Hello everyone, I'm Samuel and this is Just Gaming for Fun, and I've been thinking about Sony's IPs lately. Well, forgotten IPs, to be more exact. For me personally, the PS4 era of exclusive IPs were lackluster compared to the PS1, the PS2, and the PS3. Now don't get me wrong, there were some awesome games like Ghost of Tsushima and Uncharted 4, but other IPs I loved, like Infamous and God of War and The Last of Us, didn't exactly go the way I wanted them to go. Now, I'm not gonna flat out say those games are bad. I haven't really played Infamous enough. God of War I did not like, but I can't say that technically the game is bad. The game actually works, it functions. It's a well-made game. I just personally didn't like it. And The Last of Us 2, I haven't played it yet, and I'm not sure if I ever will. Basically, what I'm saying for the most part is that the PS4 really disappointed me, especially since the PS3 had so much variety when it came to its first-party games. But the PS4's time is over, and we are now in the era of the PS5. And Sony, if you want me to really be excited for the PS5, there are a few IPs I want to see return. It's time to revive these forgotten franchises, because what you replace them with isn't good enough in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people love modern PlayStation IPs that are out now, but I just did not really care for most of them. Most are just not for me, and some just have been huge disappointments. One reason I didn't care for the PS4 was that I felt they lost all the variety they had from the PS3. It seemed like every major PS4 game was just focused on narrative rather than gameplay. And I don't need every game to be an interactive film. I just want a fun game that focuses on gameplay. And that's one thing Nintendo and Xbox give me. Sony hasn't really been giving me that, other than Ghost of Tsushima and Uncharted, and a few other games. Now, while there are a lot of IPs I could mention on this list, I'm just going to list the ones I really want. And so I was able to come up with at least 6 IPs. So let's just dive into my list. Games will be listed alphabetically. Okay, first on my list is Astrobot. And I know what you're saying, he just had a game on the PS5. And it came pre-installed on the console. Yes, I know this. But what I want to see is this IP expanded. I first experienced Astrobot on the PS VR, and it was simply amazing. I did not realize you could make a third-person platformer work in VR. I always saw VR as like a first-person machine, not a third-person, and Astrobot on the PSVR was fantastic. Then when I played the new game on the PS5, that was even better. It was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But personally, I'm tired of seeing Astrobot being used as a tech demo. I want Astrobot to get a full-blown sequel, because while I do think Nintendo is the master of platformers, Astrobot is right up there. I consider it S tier in the platforming genre. It is fantastic from level design, from characters, from graphics, from sound design. It is, and from collectibles, it is perfect. Astrobot is a love letter to the PlayStation brand, and that's just simply awesome. But more than that, the gameplay is spot on. If you make a mistake in Astrobot, it's because of you, not the game. The mechanics are solid and the level design are just simply amazing. But then there is our leading protagonist. Astrobot is simply adorable. I love this little robot. In my opinion, Astrobot should be the PlayStation mascot from here on out. From head to toe, Astrobot is awesome. The only thing holding him back is that the games have just been a glorified tech demo. I want a full-size game. Something like Super Mario Odyssey, but with Astrobot. Now, the only sad thing about this is that the team that made Astrobot has been shut down recently. I think it's Japan Studio or something. I think that's what it's called. I don't remember. Sorry, I don't remember the name. That's a shame, and I hope Astrobot doesn't die with the studio. I want more Astrobot. Give me a full-size game. I'll buy that, Sony, day one. This one should be an obvious choice. Killzone was PlayStation's premier first-person shooter. Now, of course, I know it was never better than Halo, but Killzone had so much damn charm, thanks to the Hellgas. Personally, I'd rather play as them than the ISA. I actually don't like the ISA. None of the characters from Killzone 2 and 3 are really that memorable. Killzone 1 cast, on the other hand, are on point. Templar, Rico, Haka, and Luger are all badass. Now, technically, Rico is in the sequels, but I don't know why he is just simply less interesting in those games. I don't know why that is. Personally, I would love to play a Killzone from the Hellgas's perspective. But more than that, I just want to see the series back. Shadowfall on the PS4 was extremely disappointing, and I'm not sure what happened there. But for some reason, the magic was just gone. The story was boring. The gameplay felt very lackluster compared to the games on the PS3. It was the first game I bought for the PS4, and it was actually the reason why I wanted the PS4 as early as I got it, because of Killzone Shadowfall. And just wow, talk about a bad start for me for the PS4. It was a bad impression going forward for that generation. It took forever to install, and then when I finally did get to play it, the intro felt like it was like 20 plus minutes long, and it was just so boring. By the time we get to the actual gameplay when you're shooting Hellgas, it just felt off, and I lost interest by then. And I did continue to play, but I never did finish it. I like jumped off like halfway through. I was like done. Some of the new mechanics they added just didn't gel with the gunplay. Look, Sony, either give us a proper Killzone 4 or just simply remaster the trilogy with modern visuals. I would love to see Killzone 1 with modern graphics. That would be amazing. You need some variety back in your lineup, and a first-person shooter is just what you need. You have way too many third-person, over-the-shoulder, narrative-driven games that are trying way too hard to be films. Just give me a fun game where I can blow people up. That's all I'm asking. Killzone is a fantastic franchise, and I hate to see Guerrilla Games just focusing on Horizon Zero Dawn. And while I do like Horizon Zero Dawn, it does not compare to Killzone in my eyes. It's not even the same league as Killzone. So please bring Killzone back. Let's keep the variety coming with Motorstorm. On the PS3, we had 3 fantastic games. With each new entry, the games just kept improving. Motorstorm wasn't just a racing game. It was a visual showpiece with fantastic gameplay. My favorite in the series was Apocalypse. Driving around cities in cars and bikes, trucks, ATVs, all while everything around you is completely falling apart thanks to natural storms. Buildings were falling down, bridges were blown up, earthquakes changing the track from lap to lap, driving off of rooftops. There was just so much madness happening. It was just a huge sensory overload. But damn, was it awesome! There was nothing like this on the PS4. I could only imagine how good a Motorstorm game would have looked on the PS4, but we never got one. Now, I'm hoping we get an entry for the PS5. Come on, Sony, you have a real lack of racing games on your consoles nowadays. Even your flagship Gran Turismo is still missing in action. Of course, I'm not a fan of Gran Turismo personally. Seriously, if you've never played a Motorstorm game, you need to get a PS3 and jump on that. It was so much fun, and I want a new entry, Sony. Make it happen. Your current offerings are so bland. We need games that are just fun. We need games that are just built to be fun and not taken so seriously. This may be an unexpected entry for many people, but I personally loved The Order 1886. Graphically, the game is gorgeous. The gunplay, while not the best, it was far from horrible. It was pretty damn fun. I loved the world, the characters, the setting, and the weapons were kick-ass. You could tell what was going to be built up with this game, and I just know it was going to be freaking awesome. But sadly, the game didn't reach its full potential, and unfortunately, it had some missteps, especially with the boss fights and the AI of the werewolves. It was a little archaic. There were some areas that legit made me uneasy, like the part where you have to go to Whitechapel. The sound design in that area is spot on. I really got sucked into the world's lore. It was such a cool steampunk world filled with werewolves and vampires. What more do you want? The Order 1886 had more positives than negatives, but for some reason people just bashed the game. Maybe because it was too short or something like that, or maybe because the boss fights in the AI. But I like shorter games than longer games. I don't need a game to be 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 hours long. I'm perfectly happy with a game that's 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. I don't need games to take up all of my time. That's too much time. I, for one, loved The Order 1886, and I want to see a sequel. The ending left me wanting more, and I was excited to see what would come next. But it looks like nothing ever will come for this series, which sucks. I want a sequel to The Order 1886. Sure, it wasn't perfect, but damn, it was a fun game. It was interesting and all around badass. Please let Ready at Dawn make a sequel. Okay, if Killzone was supposed to be PlayStation's answer to Halo, then Resistance was the answer to Gears of War. While not third person like Gears, it did have an equally terrifying foe, the Chimera. Resistance was amazing, jaw-dropping, stunning, terrifying, and simply badass. Taking place in an alternate timeline where humanity is forced to fight a scary group of monsters known as the Chimera. The Chimera range in size from small to Godzilla size and everything in between. Seriously, you never know what you're gonna come up against. Some of these areas in all the games are legit scary, but luckily we are well equipped with an amazing, unique set of weaponry. This is a game made by Insomniac after all. If you played through Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive, you should know what to expect from their weapons. For me personally, each game got better with each new release. My favorite being Resistance 3. I loved the upgrade mechanic in that game. The more you use the weapons, the better it becomes. For instance, if you get enough kills with your shotgun, it will eventually shoot out shells that set your enemies on fire, and so on. I love the levels that take place in recognizable cities. Seeing how messed up each city is crazy. Resistance does a perfect job of sucking you into its world. But while Resistance 3 may be my favorite in terms of a single player content, Resistance 2 multiplayer was legendary. You had these cool missions where you had to work together with a group with other players to successfully make it through the level. It took strategy, it was crazy, hectic, fast paced, overwhelming, and most importantly, it was fun. You had like your tank, you had like your healer, you had someone who could constantly refill your ammo supply. It was just took a lot of cooperation with your teammates, but it was so damn fun. That was an amazing multiplayer. That needs to come back. I would love a proper Resistance 4 with the single player campaign being like Resistance 3 and the multiplayer being like Resistance 2. That would be absolutely perfect. If not that, give the Resistance trilogy a remastering for the PS5. Of course, it's not very likely we will see it again because Insomniac seems to be focused on Spider-Man. And yeah, you know, I like Spider-Man, but I'd much rather have more Resistance than Spider-Man. And you know, when Resistance Fall of Man was first announced for the PS3 at launch, that was one of the games that sold me on the PS3. I wanted a PS3 for that game because it looked so amazing. When I saw that first E3 trailer, I've never seen anything like it at that time. I was like, that is insane. It's crazy. I love Resistance. I want it back. Now, last but not least is Twisted Metal. This is a legendary series with a legendary leading character, Sweet Tooth. Twisted Metal has been around since the PS1, and it was a shame it did not show up on the PS4. Of course, I know why, but that doesn't change the fact that I want more Twisted Metal. But a proper Twisted Metal. The problem with Twisted Metal on the PS3 was that it was built from the ground up to be multiplayer only. Sony later on had to force the devs to create a single player portion, which I thank them for, but you could tell it was undercooked and tacked on last minute. The single player campaign only had 3 stories with 3 characters, Sweet Tooth, Dollface, and Mr. Grimm. That was extremely disappointing, and the campaign cutscenes were live action, which yeah, kind of harkens back to Twisted Metal 1, but to me it just felt like it felt cheap. Twisted Metal Black's campaigns were much better. Also, I hated the boss fights in that game. The first one with the 2 monster trucks was fine, but the Dollface battle and the Sweet Tooth battle were just way too much. Like, what were you thinking? These boss fights were way overthought, and I did not enjoy them one bit. Then of course they added racing. No thank you. Twisted Metal does not need racing in it. I just want to kill other cars, not race against them. And it's not really a fun mechanic to race in Twisted Metal because you pretty much have to choose the fastest car if you want a chance to win. If you choose like Darkseid, you're not gonna win that race. There's no way. So yeah, racing, don't add that ever again. Now, while the roster of the cars was awesome, I just didn't like that there were only 3 characters. While some of the original tracks were great, the licensed tracks are another story. Look, I like Straight Outta Compton, but it does not, I repeat, it does not belong in Twisted Metal. It's called Twisted Metal, not Twisted Rap. But while the PS3 Twisted Metal wasn't what it should have been, the gameplay itself was fantastic. I want to see them continue to improve the series, but take it back to more like Twisted Metal Black. But I don't know if we will ever see Twisted Metal again. David Jaffe, the creator of Twisted Metal, said on his podcast that out of all the games in the series, the best-selling Twisted Metal is still Twisted Metal 2. That means Twisted Metal Black didn't even outsell it, which is crazy because of how awesome it was on the PS2. And if Twisted Metal on the PS3 couldn't outsell a PS1 game, then that's a huge problem there. I still believe Twisted Metal can be a success, but you just need to give it a chance. Look, Sony, I don't want Destruction All-Stars. I want Twisted Metal. Just give me that series back. So those are the 6 games that I personally want to see make a comeback on PS5. Now there are a lot of other games that I could have mentioned, like SOCOM, Sly Cooper, Ape Escape, Warhawk, and Siphon Filter. One IP that would personally be interesting to see would be Legend of the Dragoon. That was a damn good PS1 game, and it would be crazy to see them bring that series back, which I seriously doubt, but it would be interesting. But while I could have mentioned those games, I don't have a whole lot of passion for those series. These were the 6 games that really meant a lot to me, and these were the ones that I want back. I mean, I know a lot of people love Sony's modern offerings. I just don't really care for them because they all feel similar in terms of gameplay, and the gameplay is not all that fun. Everybody just tells me, but the stories, the narrative, well, I don't play games for stories. Maybe you do, and that's fine. I play games to have fun, and if the game's not fun, I don't care how good the story is, because the story should always be secondary to gameplay. And if it's not, then I don't give two shits about it. Now, do you agree with my list? What IPs do you want to see make a return? Let me know in the comments. So that's all for now. If you enjoyed the video, I always appreciate a like, and if you want to see more, subscribe. I'm Samuel, and this is Just Gaming for Fun. And as always, stay safe out there and keep on gaming, gamers.